Hello everybody, and welcome to another installment of Erin's Book Club. Now, I am still barn sitting, so I figured I would do a different setting outside to do my book club. I don't get outside very much often, and I'm loving this deck, and like, you guys should see it. It's gorgeous. Like, I got a pool, wonderful seating area there with cushions in the shed, panoramic view here of the entire farm. There's 4 horses that I'm taking care of. Beautiful, beautiful farm. Nice, lovely house, all to myself. More deck. It's just a gorgeous place. So, I'm taking full advantage of being outside. So, what I'm going to do is a book review of Moby Dick. And if you guys like Moby Dick, you're not going to like this review. I have been waiting for this book for a long time. Remember, again, I'm trying to get into my classics, and Moby Dick was one of the classics that I was so looking forward to doing, and it has bitterly, bitterly left me disappointed. I'm trying to come into this with an open mind, because again, the book was written like 100 years ago, and they didn't have stuff like TV and like instantaneous gratification, and they didn't do a lot of traveling, so I took a little bit of what Melville did for his explaining and that kind of thing as that's why, but it just kept going. He took 3 chapters to describe a pub, and to say that it was cold took like 4 paragraphs, and it was a lot of thee and thou and this, and there is, let's see, 700 pages to this book. I didn't meet Moby Dick until page 590 something. And then, even then, when I met Moby Dick, it was a lot of, we're chasing him, and we're chasing him some more. Oh, and by the way, we're chasing him some more. Oh, and he charged the ship, and he got away, and we're all dead but one. Anticlimactic, to say the least. So much jargon. Like, all of this reads like a textbook. Like, I almost think that you could put me on an 18th century whaler and I'd know what I was doing just because of what he wrote. He went through the anatomy of a whale from part to part. He went through the classifications of different whales, which he figured were fish because God said they were fish, when we all know that they were mammals. He thought of him, like the narrator thought of himself as an authority on whaling, and he really didn't know very much about the species. And a lot of the killing of these whales, it was weird because he described it in such a way that they triumphed and thrived over the bloodshed of these whales when they died. But then he had you believing that the waste of it, like, they only take the skin off these whales and then they would send the carcass down underneath the deck or underneath the ocean. So he described the waste of it was something that he described as a horrible thing. So I'm undecided where his values lie on the whaling. I think that, because this is the complete and unabridged version, and I think this is the one and only time that you'll hear me say that I wish that I got the bridged version. I want the edited version, and I want the version that's written in English. It's very hard to find positive points on this. He opens the book in saying that even though he was a Christian, he had an open view to other races and other religions. He meets a cannibal savage called Quigquag Quigquag, I think that was his name, that he had to share a bed with because the inn had no room, and he became very, very fond of this fellow. Now, I've heard rumors that he had a sexual relationship with this fellow, that it was a homoerotic relationship. I didn't get that from reading this book. I got that they were very, very, very close friends, and that they shared the bed, but they didn't share the bed as lovers. They just shared the bed as friends. And yes, they did spend time together, sitting together in bed, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they had sex. I don't think that that's what he was going for here. And he was being very respectful of this fellow, this cannibal fellow who was black. And then there's another fellow called Pip on the ship, who's a little black boy, and he was saying that, how Pip was very intelligent even for a black fellow, which very racist and a very horrible thing to say. And at the same note, he's saying that he's an enlightened individual, so maybe he was at the time. I think what this is a example of a book that's so far in the past that I can't seem to find a common thread with. And it was written like a textbook, and I didn't really want to read a textbook. I wanted to read a fiction. So no, I didn't enjoy it all. I will keep it because everybody needs to have it in their dictionary or in their collection. You need to have these classics. If you like them or not, they need to be there because this was another person's point of view and an earlier writing and a piece of history. So on that aspect, I will keep it, but I will never read it again probably. And it was agonizing to read through. Like I was having a hard time finding a reason to read. So I'm going to give tonight a chance to relax and clear my palate, so to speak, of these kind of books. And then I'm going to start reading some of my magazines, and I'll do a few reviews on my magazines because I need some lighter reading because not an enjoyable book. So Moby Dick by Herman Melville, a classic, a very involved book. I think if you were more into the whaling and that kind of thing, if you're more into ships, you would enjoy this book. I did not enjoy it at all. Probably will never read it again, but I will keep it because it is a piece of classic, it's a piece of history, and it's something that I think will help stretch my mind in the reading capability, because definitely not something that I will want to go through again, but we'll keep it as a treasure anyway. Thanks very much, guys.